This is the Elevating Voices and Transforming Communities Through Shared Decision-Making. I'm Selena Molina. I'm going to be one of the presenters this afternoon, and I also have my colleague Bianca Solorio, who will be presenting with me as well. So want to provide an overview of what we will be covering in today's session. We'll do a brief welcome and introductions. As I mentioned, as far as the icebreaker in the chat, if you can introduce yourself, name, organization that you're with, and then something that you're looking forward to taking away or learning from our session this afternoon, that would be great. We're going to give you a high-level overview of community schools for those of you who may not be familiar with it, but we're also going to talk about what community schools looks like at Washington Unified School District. We're also going to talk about shared decision-making practices and strategies that we're utilizing as we implement our community schools project at Washington Unified, and then we will have some time for some Q&A at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we can answer those as we go. So here are objectives for today. So by the end of the session, attendees will be able to describe what a community school is, identify strategies for shared decision-making, and identify key stakeholders and roles in shared decision-making. We're going to be talking a lot today, so if there's anything that you take away that you're like, oh, I remember Selena and Bianca spoke about this, we will give you our contact info, so feel free to shoot us an email and we can schedule some time to meet virtually, or if you are in the Sacramento area. We are in the Sacramento area, so as I was just talking with Sarah, right? Human connection, meeting in person, if that's something that you would be open to doing and meeting with us, just feel free to let us know. But we will be reviewing a lot of information, and I know it's an afternoon, so I really appreciate your patience with us as we dive into the content of our presentation. So as I said, my name is Selena Molina. I am the Director of Community Impact at United Way, California Capital Region. Very fancy title, but basically what I oversee is all of our educational programs at United Way. So community schools is one of those programs. I also oversee our literacy tutoring program, which is a partnership with 3 school districts in the Sacramento region. Oversee our Dolly Parton Imagination Library in Yolo County. So we've partnered with the Dollywood Foundation to get books in the homes of families with children under the age of 5, and also oversee our there's a ton of other things like one day events such as United Way Kids Reads, where we bring in local authors to read to kids and we provide books for kids, but essentially oversee all of our educational work at the agency. And I'll go ahead and let my colleague Bianca Solorio introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Bianca Solorio. I am the Community Schools Partnership Manager, so I work directly with Washington Unified in navigating community schools and all that fun stuff.
Thank you, Bianca. So before I forget, and I'm so glad that I included a slide, but if you scan this QR code, it'll take you to a Google folder that has different type of resources that we've utilized and that we've created for our community schools project. So in there, you'll also find a PDF of this presentation. But if you scan this QR code, it'll take you to that folder. You can also go to that tiny URL link. And then Bianca, if you can do me a favor and just drop the link again in the chat for me so that folks have access to it if they want to open it up during the presentation. And we may be uploading content into that folder as we build out our project. So definitely would say if this is something that you're like, I want to use in my organization or with the parents or families that I work with, definitely bookmark it. Because I know at least for me, I lose all hyperlinks and then have to like go through Google and do a search for what I was looking for. And then we'll have the slide again at the end if for whatever reason you need to revisit it. All right, so to give you some context about the work that we do, because I know some folks have an idea of what United Way does, but every United Way does different things. So at United Way, California Capital Region, our mission is really to mobilize our community to action so that all can thrive. We provide a continuum of services in the 5 counties in our region. So Sac County, Amador County, Placer County, El Dorado Hills, and Yolo County. And these services are really aimed at ending poverty for local families through our 4 pillars. The first pillar is our healthy community, and we do this by improving health and well-being for all. An example of a program under this pillar is our CalAIM Housing Navigation Program. So we have a whole group of housing navigators that support families that live in Sacramento County and in Yolo County with getting them into housing, but also providing wraparound services and case management in some capacity for a year after they are housed. So this is a way that we want to promote our families and our communities to stay healthy. The other pillar is our youth opportunity pillar. And then really the goal here is helping kids excel in school and helping young people realize their full potential. So as I mentioned earlier, I oversee all of our educational initiatives. Most of them fall under this pillar. So literacy tutoring, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. We also partner with the San Juan Unified School District here in Sacramento to support foster youth. So we really want to make sure that we are helping kids excel in school because we know that that is one way that we can eliminate poverty for families. The next pillar is our financial security pillar, and this is really looking at investing in families to build financial stability and strength. So we have our free tax prep program that we've had, I think, since 2009. But we also are excited about our guaranteed income program. So we've partnered with Sacramento County and the city of Sacramento to help families who are most in need get up to $500 a month for 12 months. And this is income that they can use to get out of debt, keep up with bills, go back to school, invest in their business, and really looking out how we can support families and being financially secured. And then our last pillar is our community resiliency pillar. And this is ways that we address urgent needs in our communities that are happening now for a better tomorrow. And this one's in gold because this is our community schools project. So we've been very fortunate to partner with Washington Unified School District and West Sacramento to really revamp 4 of their school sites into community schools. And this is the project that falls under that pillar. And we are happy today to share with you how that project is going and how we are bringing different folks to the table to make decisions about the implementation of this project. That's a little bit about United Way. Now I'm going to share a little bit more about Washington Unified School District. So this is the only school district in West Sacramento. For those of you who are not too familiar with this area, it's not too far from Sacramento City. You can actually see the Capitol building from a specific point in West Sacramento. But Washington Unified is the only school district, as I said, in the city. And just a quick profile of our student enrollment at the district. There are more than 7,200 students enrolled. 67% of students are from a low SES household. 17% of those students, or of the total student population, are English language learners. And I was very amazed when I found out about this fact, but there's over 26 languages that are spoken by students and families in the district. The 4 main languages, or I should say 3 outside of English, are Spanish, Farsi, Dari, and Russian. And any material or any meetings that we have, we also make sure that there are those 3 other languages or interpreters for those 3 other languages, and information is provided for families in those other 3 languages. Because we just want to make sure that we are inclusive of all. As far as the school sites, there are 8 K-8 sites, so there are no middle schools at Washington Unified. We have one middle college high school, and this high school is a partnership with the West Sacramento satellite of Sacramento City College, which is one of our local colleges. But essentially, a student that attends this school can graduate both with a high school and an associate's degree. So that's a pretty fun fact about that school. We have one comprehensive high school, which is River City High School, and which is one of our community schools, one continuation high school, and then one adult school. And I forgot to mention, Bianca, my co-presenter, is actually an alumna of Washington Unified School District. So she was born and raised in West Sac and is now working with this initiative in West Sacramento. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through every single thing on this slide, but this on here, you see the goals, the equity principles, and the 4 pillars of the district, and this is in their strategic plan. So the Community Schools Project is very aligned with all of this. And I just want to highlight quickly the goals that the district has, right? So the first one is that they are supporting students' success in the early years, that they are really serving the whole child and taking care of the whole child, right? So making sure that they are healthy, that they're safe, that they're challenged and supported, giving an opportunity and achievement for every student, and then eliminating any disproportionalities that may exist and getting them ready for college, career, and life. So this has been at the forefront of our implementation of community schools, and really the reasoning, I think, also behind why the partnership between United Way and Washington Unified made sense. So now transitioning over to talking a little bit about community schools. For those who may not know what community schools are, it's not a new thing, although I think here in California, it's probably something that's more recent, but it's a movement and it's been going on for many years. It started off with the Harlem Child Zone back in New York City in the early 90s, but essentially what community schools are is community schools serve as hubs of resources for families and students. And it's a strategy to ensure that students have great outcomes. And I think during COVID, many of us understood that there needs to be more alignment between education and other sectors, right? And community schools is really about bringing everyone together to ensure that we're supporting the whole child. And just to give you a quick stat, according to the California Teachers Association, there are approximately about 8,000 to 10,000 community schools nationwide. Here in California, there's only been 3 cohorts that have been awarded the Community Schools Implementation Grant from the California Department of Education. And Washington Unified was a recipient of that grant. And only 197 other school districts received that grant back in 2023. So in some sense, we're excited that we are leading our county and our region in implementation of this strategy and this framework, and looking forward to seeing how we can really transform not just the communities that attend these school sites, but also West Sacramento as a whole. This is the California Department of Education's California Community Schools Partnership Program Framework. There's a lot going on this slide, but essentially, if we look at this hierarchy or this triangle, right, community schools is really based on 4 cornerstone commitments, 4 proven practices, 4 key conditions for learning, and then 4 pillars. And there are 4 overarching values that really drive the work that we are doing here in West Sacramento. So those four values include that school sites are racially just, relationship-centered spaces, that there's opportunities for classroom community and connections, that there is shared power, and that there's a focus on evaluation and continuous improvement. And then just to briefly highlight the cornerstones, the practices, the conditions for learning, and the pillars. I'll start off with the pillars because the pillars are really essential in making sure that we're implementing the program the way that the framework shares. Those 4 pillars include integrating student supports. So for example, at one of our school sites, we have dental screenings happening, right? So instead of referring families out to get dental screenings, we have a clinic that comes out and does the dental screenings. We've also partnered with UC Davis to have clinicians on site who provide mental health services to students and workshops to families. So instead of referring families out to UC Davis is coming and providing the services on site. So that's really about integrating the different supports that students and families need. The second pillar is increasing family and community engagement, right? We know that students do better when families are engaged. So we are doing different things such as coffee with the principals, or as River City High School likes to call it, coffee with the parents. And we also recently, Riverbank Elementary School, one of our community schools, had a family empowerment conference where the intention was really to bring in families from the communities that are not as engaged. And most of these were families from Ukraine, Russia, Afghanistan, those families that don't feel as connected to the school community. So those are ways that the school district is really looking at increasing family and community engagement. The third pillar is collaborative leadership and practices, and that's really what we're going to be talking about today in the presentation. So I won't go too much into detail with that one. And then the last one is that we're giving students opportunities to be involved in activities outside of the regular classroom day. So we recently conducted a needs assessment and learned through that needs assessment that students are interested in the arts, right? They're interested in learning dance and interested in learning about different instruments. So at Burbank, our facilitator was able to bring in teachers to teach students how to play the violin or how to play the piano or another instrument. At Elkhorn, we are working on bringing baile folklorico into the campus because that's something that the community and the students shared in the needs assessment. So those are the 4 pillars. And then the conditions for learning, this is really about looking at structures in the classroom. We want to ensure that the environment is supportive. We want to make sure that the instructional strategies are productive, that there is also, we're very intentional about our social and emotional learning, right, of the curriculum that we're using, but also of how we're supporting students with that. And then just having different systems of support. So those are the 4 conditions for learning. And then the 4 proven practices, and this is from folks that have been doing community schools from many years ago to recently, is really utilizing the community's assets, right? And also, I know that there's been talks about lived experiences, but really tapping into the community and identifying what are those assets and what are some areas that we need to build or strengthen. So that's a proven practice. Another practice is really integrating and aligning with other relevant programs or services. Again, making sure that the strategy of aligning everything instead of referring families out to things is happening at the school site. And that's a proven practice, right? We want to make sure that we're supporting the family holistically and being that hub at the school site. The next practice is really around shared leadership. So it's having site-based and district-based advisory councils for community schools. And I know Bianca's going to talk a little bit about what we're doing at Washington Unified at the school level and then at the district level to really hear the perspective and the voices from multiple stakeholders. And then the last proven practice is that there has to be someone at the school site to be doing all of this work. So every school site has a community schools facilitator who works closely with Bianca and ensuring that we are bringing the services and the supports that families and students and teachers are advocating for, and making sure that we are aligning those programs and services on campus. And then the last thing I'll quickly go over are the 4 cornerstone commitments. And again, that's just ensuring that the spaces are racially just and that we are taking into consideration school climate and that the school climate is restorative. Again, building on assets. So instead of using a deficit mindset, really drive it from an assets-based and a strengths-based approach, making sure that things are powerful, culturally proficient, and relevant, or not things, but instruction is powerful and culturally relevant, excuse me. And that, again, there is shared decision-making happening at the school site and as a whole. So wanted to give you a very high-level overview of the community schools framework here in California. And now I'll jump in to kind of give you more at the local level, an idea of what our 4 community schools are. The first 3 that you see on your screen are our K-8s. And then the last one is the high school. So Elkhorn Village Elementary School is one of our community schools. They have 584 students currently enrolled. 90% of those students come from a low SES household, and 34% of those students are English language learners. Elkhorn is the only school site in Washington Unified that has a dual immersion program. The next school is Riverbank Elementary School. They have 616 students. 94% of their students come from a low SES household, and then 34% of their students are English language learners. Riverbank Elementary School has a newcomer center. So they're able to and equipped to support students and families through that center. And then Westfield Village Elementary School has 470 students. 96% of them are from a low socioeconomic status household, and then 42% are English language learners. And it's very exciting that they have a growing STEAM program. I was able to attend one of their STEM nights, and it was really great to see the engagement of families and students and their interest in STEM. And then our last school is the high school, which is River City High School. They have over 2,200 students currently enrolled. 69% of those students are from a low SES household. 9% are English language learners. And very similar to Riverbank, they also have a newcomer center, so they're able to and are equipped to support students and families who are recent arrivals to the country. And then they are the only comprehensive high school in the district. And none of the work that we're going to be talking about today is possible without the team that you see on this screen. This is the team of community schools facilitators that Bianca and I have the privilege of working with. Bianca Garcia is the community schools facilitator over at Elkhorn Village. Ashraf Papalzai is the facilitator over at Riverbank. Sana Hanif is the facilitator over at River City High School. And then Monica Valadez is the facilitator over at Westfield Village. And very similar to our Bianca Solorio, Bianca Garcia and Monica Valadez are also alumna of Washington Unified School District and also live in West Sac. So they bring a different narrative, right, and a lived experience to the work that they're doing through community schools. And then we also have June Flores, who is the Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at Washington Unified School District. Community schools falls under DEI. So she's our counterpart over at the school district that ensures and is a strong advocate for the program. And then Edward King, who is our Chief Program Officer at United Way and oversees, I believe, all of the programs and all of our pillars. So that's a little bit about our community schools team. Now I'm going to jump in to talk a little bit about funding because we really can't do this work without money, right? We need money in order to make sure that everything is being implemented the way it needs to be implemented and the way the community wants it to be implemented. So just to provide some context, back in 2022, Washington Unified and United Way California Capital Region came together and collectively as a partner applied for the California Department of Education's Community Schools Planning Grant. The CDE grants are awarded to the districts. So they work together, United Way and Washington Unified worked together, put the grant application, submitted it, and they were awarded the planning grant. This was for $200,000, and this was for Riverbank and River City High School. The planning grant was for 2 years, but they were able to hit all of their goals in 1 year. And that kind of set them up. And I say them because I wasn't here when that happened. I came in when we were awarded the federal award. That prepared them when the Department of Education announced that they had a competition for the full service community schools grant. Again, Washington Unified and United Way came together and said, hey, we're going to apply for this. United Way is the holder of that federal grant. So we were awarded almost $2.5 million over 5 years to implement community schools at Riverbank and River City High School. And happy to report that in the first year, we spent $366,000, a little bit over that. But we actually are currently working on the report that is due on Monday for year 2. And we spent in this past year $490,000, and the majority of that funding went to contracts for providers that are going to be or are at the sites providing services to students and families. And in addition to the federal grant, we together applied for the California Department of Education's implementation grant. And Washington Unified was awarded $4.275 million over 5 years to implement community schools at Elkhorn, Riverbank, and Westfield. And important to note that Riverbank is the only school that gets dual funding. But in the first year, they were able to spend almost $500,000 for the projects at the 3 sites. Thought it would be important to share this because, again, it's very difficult to do any kind of this work if there's no funding for it. But this is also how, now that we are coming into the end of the second school year, we're also preparing ourselves for the sustainability of this project once these funds are no longer available. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and transition it over now to Bianca, who's going to talk a little bit about how we are creating a culture of collective trust and shared responsibility around the Community Schools Project at Washington Unified School District.
So in order for us to be able to do all of this work, we do have to have buy-in from all parties. That includes our bargaining partners, teachers, the school in general, the district. And so one of the ways that we've actually worked through this, if you want to go to the next slide, Selene, is we created an MOU with between the district and our bargaining partners. So we have the teachers union and the classified union. And we were able to share a MOU where we were able to solidify being able to implement the community schools implementation into so that we were able to have a shared decision making. And so in a few slides, we're going to talk about how they're also a part of the decision making at the school sites. And then in addition to that, we were also able to do a board resolution where we were able to kind of get together and have that make sure that we have that shared commitment between the school district, the two unions, so that we know that we're doing everything with the purpose of having the services and creating a space for students and families to be successful through community schools. And so it's a shared effort between all of us. And so we always make sure that we have that shared understanding and commitment for the students. And we can go to that slide. And then shared understanding with community school purpose. So it's a strategy to organize resources, the voice of the schools, and community around student success. The shift was to focus on student learning outcomes, and then addressing the root cause of what's preventing students to come to school. So some of the things that we've done with that is in order for us to know what those obstacles are, we had to do a multitude of things, which included listening to parents, listening to teachers, students, staff, all of those things, which we'll further then talk down the line about what we've done to do all of those things. So let's see. We can go to next slide. So what we've done is we've created a shared space for us to all come together and kind of look at the needs of the community. Each school is very, very different. So two of the schools are in my neighborhood. They're less than a mile away from each other, but I could tell you that they're very, very different. They have very, very different needs. And so what we wanted to create was a way for us to get that information of each school's needs and be able to provide the resources that are tailored to the needs of each school. So one of the things that we were able to do at the beginning of this school year, year 2024-25, was we were able to do a needs assessment. So we partnered up with our evaluators, so data for the people, they helped develop a student, parent, and staff survey that was going to be able to get us information about those needs and be able to provide us with feedback that was going to be able to allow us to see what it was outside of just like the regular school day, that it was something that they needed. So for example, they were able to give us content about their extended day activities, family and student support, the school climate, community connections, because it is a shared effort. It's not just something that in order for students to be successful in school, it's not just them being at school and doing school work. It's about what it is that's not available to them to make it to school. Is it a ride to school? Is it clothing? Is it a backpack? It could be something very, very simple that's preventing them from coming to school. So we were able to create this survey that was going to give us all of this information. And some of those things we were able to get really good feedback. For example, one of the needs that we had taken into consideration the first year coming around was that we needed laundry services, but we didn't know how much it was needed until after we took some information from the survey where they were able to provide us that it's more of a dire need than anything. So we were able to partner up with a local laundromat where we're able to provide vouchers for students who are in need to have clean clothes to come to school. A lot of the barriers, it's something as simple as clean clothes that make people don't want to come to school. And then with that, a lot of our schools do have a community schools closet where they're able to provide clean clothing for our students. And so again, we wouldn't know that those simple things were a need. Yes, we do need that sometimes certain students need clothing, but it's actually more surprising of how many of those needs can be just available to them if we were to hear them out. And so um, the way we were able to collect that data, it did take a lot of time and a lot of preparation because nothing comes, easy. And so we were able to go out into the community at each school. So we did presentations at the staff meeting so we can get staff input. We did car-to-car flyering during the school drop-off in the morning and then pickup. And then we did presentations at the classrooms with the teachers so that we could get input from students. One of the things that one of our facilitators did was she did a competition. So she took a little red flyer that said, please complete the survey with the QR code, took it home and said, parents, please do this. As soon as you do this, sign this and bring it back so that your student can be put into a raffle. That actually increased our parent engagement into the survey by a lot at that school. And then we send out weekly emails, phone calls, presentations, and then a lot of more things. We have something we'll talk about later is our collaborative meetings. We shared information there. I mean, anything you can think of, we were doing out there with our facilitators. And then serving the survey findings, the data for the people, evaluators were able to gather this information, and then we were able to share this out at our collaborative meeting. And then we were able to set goals at our site steering committees, which I'll talk about a little bit later what that looks like. And so that was able to set goals for each of the school sites so that they were able to have something tangible to be able to present and say, this is our goal for this school year. This is what we would like to see happen. Again, this is a shared effort. This came from the survey. This came from input from the parents and the people who are in our steering committees. And then again, the people who are invited into our collaborative meetings.
And then Bianca, I'm just gonna jump in real
Go ahead.
quick. In that folder, that Google folder, you're going to be able to see the goals for each of the school sites. So there's a document that has hyperlinks to each school site's needs assessment results and the goals that the committees came up with for their school sites, if you wanted to see them after the presentation or during the presentation.
And then we were able to share the results and the goals with everybody in the community. So again, this took effort from our facilitators, where we were able to present in staff meetings, the principal's weekly updates. We did posters outside of the school, outside of the community schools room. We shared this information at the family engagement event. We also discussed about doing a video, and we've actually talked about this in doing it one video as a whole as a district wide, but we also talked about this as doing it at a school site. That is still something we're working on only because people are very shy and don't want to be on camera very often. So hopefully we get that through and we're able to share that information for people that way. And then we were able to survey in total 1,600, a little bit more than 1,600 people. But we had 923 students, 471 families, and 201 staff. That is shared between the 4 schools. But we did this assessment not as cohesive or not as robust as this year was, but we did this similarly last year, and we didn't even hit half, and that was district wide. So this was a big increase for us of having 1,600 people participate in our survey. And so the hopes is that when we do this needs assessment again, that we're able to increase those numbers and increase the participation of especially the families and students, so that their voices are heard in when we're making these decisions. And then so collaborating that is driving a force behind community schools. So in order for us to make decisions and drive the work of community schools, we have to have everybody's voice heard. It can't be me, who's a community schools, the partnership manager who makes the decisions. It can't be the facilitators. It takes a group of people. And so what we've created is a site steering committee to be able to make these decisions at each site. So this consists of a student, a parent, a classified staff, so anybody who's not a teacher, and then the certificated staff, so a teacher as a member, and then one of the admin. So in total, there should at least be 5 people who are at each sites that are voting members to be able to make shared decisions. So during the steering committees, the whole entire school site is invited to come to these meetings. And this is where we discuss different contracts that are being brought up into for potential partnerships. And we discuss and then we agree, disagree, and then ultimately what happens is the voting members make those decisions, whether we're going to continue with the contract or not continue with the contract. I will tell you, I am at those meetings majority of the time. The conversations that are driving this are really, really good conversations. And I think this is what is needed so that we know that everybody's being heard. And I would say that I'm most proud of our students. We have, I believe, because it is the elementary level, we have 3 of our or actually 4 active members that are asked the questions that need to be asked, put the input, and they put it into a perspective from the student, because sometimes as adults, we think that we know what students want and we think we understand what they want. And so they really put it into a perspective of like, yeah, that sounds fun, but are you really going to have the engagement that you think you're going to have? Because this is something that they don't want. And I'll give you an example. Baile folklorico is something that is very, very highly requested at many of our schools. And the student was like, yeah, but your 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are not going to participate. So then what ended up happening is that that goal ended up being for our younger grades rather than something that the older grades would want to participate in. And so it's those things that drive this work to be successful, is that we have the input from everybody. And so we also have other elected members. So like at the high school, we have our teachers union representative who also is able to vote because she's at the school site. So that's an additional vote at the high school level. And then we also have a collaboration meeting. So it's our community schools collaboration meeting that we have at every quarter. There's no elections, no votes during this time, but we do invite people district-wide to come in and learn about community schools and what's going on for that quarter. We've had really, really great talks during this time. This is where discussions happen and we're able to kind of further include those people who might not be able to attend the site steering committees to learn about what's going on at their site. So one of the things that we were able to do at this last steering committee is we were able to go and do an activity where we were able to learn about, it was like a mid-year reflection, and learn about what's going right, where we can grow and whatnot. And so one of the things that we were able to do with that information is we took it back to the site steering committee and we actually discussed about ways we can further collaborate with some people. We can look for different partnerships. and do all of those things. So it's like we're taking feedback from community as well. It's not just the people who have voting power just making decisions either. We're able to kind of facilitate all of that. And then I did talk about this a little bit. So again, it was one student member, and then the parent, the principal, the classified and the certificated staff, which is a total of 5 minimum at each site. Again, there could be a little bit more at some sites just because the representatives might be able to vote at the union representatives might be able to vote at the school site. And then
Sorry, Bianca, I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
I'm
So there was a whole process on who were going to be the representatives on these committees. So like there was a whole, so August, September is when we were doing our needs assessment. In September, it was nomination month, right? So there was presentations that our community schools facilitators gave at all staff meetings to teachers to get teachers to nominate themselves or other teachers to sit on this committee. There was also presentations given in classrooms, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Bianca, it was the older students, right, 6th to 8th graders, got presentations also. They were able to nominate themselves or nominate their peers. Similar thing went out to families to nominate themselves or someone else. But this was a whole, it wasn't just, the facilitator said, oh, Selene, because you're a parent that shows up to everything, I want you to sit on this committee. There was a process. So like there was a nomination process, and then there was a voting process. And then the facilitators, with the help of Bianca, also were supporting the committee members on like Robert's rule, because we wanted to make sure that everything was uniform and that there was consensus. So they use Robert's rules of order in their meetings. And there's also a site steering committee handbook for community schools, which is also, shameless plug, if you want to check out our Google folder, that a copy of that handbook is also in the folder, so that way you can review and you can learn more about how decisions are being made and the structure of the committees at each of the community schools. I will also say that we all say this is a living document. This is the first year we're implementing this. We're also gathering feedback from committee members to see how we can improve this. But I believe when we asked committee members if they were willing to come back for a second year for the 2025-2026 school year, I believe everyone was on board. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bianca, because I know you're at those meetings.
So everybody's willing to come back except our students. A lot of our students are 8th graders, so they'll be moving on to the high school level. And so unfortunately they won't be able to. But we are talking to students who are wanting to participate. So students will be the only thing that will probably have to do the voting process for again.
Yeah, and we have decided that instead of doing the nomination and voting process in the fall, at the beginning of the school year, we're going to do it prior to the school year ending. So there is, I believe, possibly March, April-ish will be the nomination and elections of students who are going to sit on the committees for next year. And the idea behind that is because we want to make sure that we are able to bring our committee members. Every year, the California Department of Education hosts its annual community schools conference. And the idea is to really support the committee members by inviting them, like we're through the grant funds, we will pay for them to go to the conference so that they can kind of learn more about what other districts, other schools are doing, but also support their development, right? Because that's the other thing and this is a conversation that we've had with our evaluators in regards to like gathering data, right, from our committee members in regards to like what skills are you developing, what have you noticed you've grown in, right? Because it's not just supporting students, we also want to make sure that we're empowering and supporting those that are making decisions for this project. at the school site level. So just wanted to jump in and share that as well.
And then as Elena mentioned, we do Robert's rules. So the training that the steering committee was able to do, again, it's a shared decision-making team. So we reviewed goals. We looked at what is allowable and not allowable. Each funding source has allowables and unallowables that we have to review. And so with any contract, anything that comes through the steering committee, we have to just make sure that, one, the funding is there, two, that the it's something that's allowable, and then something that the school is willing to bring into their site. We did Robert's Rules training, and then we also trained our staff, our steering committee, on a few different tools for when we are able to, so that we can have measurable data when we're bringing in different partnerships. And then at our community schools collaborative meeting, this is where we have discussion about funding, where we are able to talk about the goals, the celebrations, and then we were also able to talk about those tools that we trained our steering committee in. That way they also had that information available to them. And then sustainability. So again, with every funding source, some things do come to an end. Thankfully, we still have a few years until that happens for us. But again, we should be working on sustainability from day one, on how to keep some resources in the schools at no cost. And our facilitators have done a wonderful, wonderful job at doing this. So we have been able to partner with different vendors and community partners at a zero cost. So for example, Catholic Charities of YOLO did workshops at our two of our schools, so two of the elementary schools. The Home Run team, this is a West Sac team where they're able to do the Ready, Set, Save workshops. So they are, and they're also partnering, I think, I want to say it's in April, at maybe a low cost to do a 1-day bilingual conference with our parents here in West Sac, all day, to learn about financial literacy, where they're able to bring their kids. It's on a Saturday. It's something that's really available to them. I say little cost, it would have been no cost, but we decided that we were going to partner with them and provide breakfast for our families, since they are going to come in early. But technically speaking, that could be a zero cost partnership. And then we have Health Education Council. We have Zumba, where they come in, bring somebody to do Zumba at our school with our elderly friends at the school cafeteria. And then we have like the financial aid, AI chat support. We have the newcomer tutoring with one of our local community resource centers, where they provide tutoring. I believe it's every day at one of the elementary schools. And then Job Corps does outreach on campus at the high school. And then we have Yolo County Cal Fresh Healthy Living doing nutrition education at all of our schools. And then I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add, Selene, about that.
Covered it all.
And then, is there any questions or anything that we would like to know more about? You can put it in the chat, or I don't know, are they able to unmute themselves?
Yeah, they should be able to just fine.
Okay.
You can raise a Zoom hand as well.
No questions.
Not that I see coming up. Did you, I think you provided a link to all the resources. Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
You want to hit the next slide?
Yes. Let me hit the next slide, and then I will also drop the link in the chat.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
So this is the this is the QR code to access all of the materials that we talked about on here. So please feel free.
And then I'm gonna go ahead and skip forward to the next slide if you want to take a picture of it, a screenshot. It has our contact information. If you ever want to chat some more, if you are in the Sacramento area, not too far from us, and want to meet in person, would love to have you meet us in person. Or if you want to come check us out and check out the work, that's always nice, right? Feel free to like shoot us an email, and then you also see on the slide there our website and then the link to the district's website. Thank you everyone for making it. I'm glad that we were able to stick to time, because we usually are always rushing at the end. But thank you everyone again. I hope you were able to like gain some information, knowledge, strategies for how to elevate voices of the folks that you work with.
Yeah, thank you all.